this is why retailers get bad names.
Oh,
this
sure.
is why no one can trust retailers, because you can't.
To quote, I think, Christian Cage, they're just Cary Pieces of shit.
Come on and visit for any occasion. Don't keep patting down waiting. Comics and conversation. Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast with Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
Dal, I don't know where to start. What
alphabetically.
a day. Oh,
Alphabetically.
well, no, then I have to organize everything
Okay.
and figure which is which.
Okay.
Okay, well, FedEx comes before Pokemon, so
Yes.
went to FedEx this morning,
Thanks.
picked up the flyers,
Yep.
and most of the time at FedEx, I just, give them your name, pay. They'll say, do you want to check it out? And then most of the time I'm like, nah. So I pay, and then I look, I go, wait a minute. I think there's a problem with this order. Mm-hmm. And he's like, what? The printing is fine. It seems to be a little more than I thought it was going to be.
Right.
Do you know how much more it was?
The cost of a two-sided sign that they didn't finish more?
No. I'm sorry, I was shaking my head no. $86 more. Because whoever took your order put them all in as... They were printed right.
Right.
But they put them all in as full color printing.
Nope.
Yeah.
The majority of them were black and white on colored paper.
Well, the problem was FedEx was having issues with their computers.
Sure.
So everything was super slow.
Right.
And I had the manager, the guy who likes talking about the store.
Yep.
So he was helpful, but he needed to understand what was happening.
Right.
So it was, and I didn't understand either. Because I said, I'm like, look, man, most of the time I just come pick them up. I don't place the orders.
Right.
But I can tell you, we only got 12 full color on cardstock. Not even cardstock, 32 point.
Yeah, 32 pound. Yeah.
32 pound. And then the rest were just black and white on separate colors.
Yeah.
The quantities were all right.
Yep.
From what we asked for, but when they were rung in as. But it took him, and even after he's like, all right, this is good, okay. And they gave us a break.
Okay.
Like, rather than they just put $86 back on the card.
Okay.
And he's like, oh, we didn't charge you for this, it's our mistake. And then as I'm walking, I was like, hold on. He's like, I'm sorry, I need to understand how the order was taken. I'm like, okay, I'll stand here, even though it's now 11:02. That's not true. I got to the store at 11:02.
Okay. But at the time, I mean, you're at North and Wood, and you're like, I really have to get to the store that's at Western and Winnebago. Please.
And I texted Gina to say, hey, I'm going to be late, but Gina is not prepared to open unless she knows in advance.
Okay.
So all taken care of, but it'll be, 7 to 10 business days. The $86 is back.
At least you caught the error.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's like, oh, thank you for catching this. I'm like, you don't need to thank me. The thanks go to me, from me, and my checkbook. I'm like, hey, man, it's not your fault. It's just an accident. He's like, no, I really appreciate it. I'm like, thank you for appreciating it. You don't have to.
Yeah, it's not like we were going to stop working with them,
Yeah. I'm glad I caught it.
Right.
He doesn't need to be glad. It's fine. It's fine. So we got in a few Pokemon celebration things in today.
Yeah.
A grand total of 5 pieces. Not 5 things, 5 pieces.
Yes.
3 things, 5 pieces total.
Yes. Correct.
Now, they were in a box in my car, brought them in, stacked them up on the back counter to work on them, but that, my rule has always usually been, hide that stuff. Mm-hmm. Work on it when no one's looking.
Right.
But
because if people see you working on it or even see it in the store, it's like, how much is that? Can I get it right now?
Right.
Why not?
But because Josh Graining helps us so much with Pokemon stuff, he has right of first refusal.
Right, true.
So I stacked it up to take a photo of all of it,
Yes.
to email him to say, hey, do you want any of this stuff?
Right. Because sometimes he does and sometimes he doesn't.
Right. Yeah, and again, I am more than happy to always send him a photo of what we got.
Sure.
But I want to just make it one photo, so I'm not attached. And once again, because I'm doing it from my phone, I always mishit the attach button and hit send. So I almost always send him an email that's like, hey, do you want this with nothing in it?
Uh-huh.
Then I have to set up another one
Whoops.
where I actually attach the photo.
Sure.
So imagine having to attach multiple photos. It wouldn't work. But anyway, there was a guy who was really pushy about the things, and I wasn't having it.
No.
And he was asking questions like, well, how many do you have? How many did you order? What else is there? How much are they? And I just kept saying, hey, man, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. No, those aren't for sale. No, you can't have them. And then, like Gina had said, oh, we're still working on those. We haven't been checked and logged on the system yet. Then he's like, well, are you the owner? I'm like, yes, I'm absolutely the owner.
Yes, there's no one above me who can complain about this.
He's like, well, mumble something about treating customers. I'm like, excuse me? You need to treat your customers better. And I go, and you remember that for next time. And then he walked out mumbling something else. And A, I was pretty happy with that line.
Sure.
B, after he left, I said loudly, I am more than happy to never have that man's business again because he's just a Pokemon guy.
Yeah, certainly there's a difference between... We have a lot of people, adults, who are buying Pokemon cards for themselves, and they're excited about it. And I would say that a lot of them are generally pretty nice to deal with. They're grateful when they find anything. They understand when they don't find things. We have some regular guys that are super nice guys who come in and get Pokemon stuff. We also have a bunch of people who are kind of jerks about it, who are constantly trying to wheel and deal on stuff. Everything is, so what's the price on this? Oh, the sticker price is on the bottom. All right, well, I mean, what if I got 2 of these? Could you do way less than half the price? No, I really couldn't. No,
also, I'm not going to sell you 2 of them.
No. Or sometimes the thing I dislike the most is when parents come in with their kids and the parents are like, where are your Pokemon cards? And you go through the explanation of hey man, here's what's going on with Pokemon cards. We feel bad about it. We wish we could have some. We don't have them right now. And then you can hear the parents saying to the kids, I'm sorry, this store doesn't have any for you. We can't get any Pokemon cards today. They don't have them for you. And it's always
it's our shortcoming.
Yeah, it's with this tone of Daddy did his best, but this store let everybody down. They don't like you. They don't like Pokemon cards. And it's don't do that. Don't make this my fault just because you can't explain it to your kids another way.
Also, you are making it so this store does not like Pokemon cards.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of hassles that go around with carrying Pokemon cards, as we're in the midst of discussing. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to go ahead and say all of the Pokemon customers are bad. I don't want to say that because there are people who are,
of course,
are very nice about it.
I mean, I think I prefaced this whole Pokemon conversation talking about somebody who's really great for Pokemon cards.
Sure, yeah, that's true.
Or who's really great and likes Pokemon cards.
Yes.
And there was a person in the store who's buying comics, and as that guy left, he went, "What was that guy's problem?" And sometimes you think it's me overreacting, but when it's somebody who has no investment in the situation,
sure,
and who sees it that way,
I would go ahead and say that you can generally tell if you have a bad interaction with a customer on that level, where they kind of won't take no for an answer and they're very pushy about getting what they want. I would say 9 times out of 10 it's someone who's going to flip it online. That's why they're so pushy, because you're not just denying them a thing that they want. You are specifically denying them a chance to make money. And people are way less accepting of that.
Yep.
You're not costing him Pokemon cards. You're costing him multiples of what he paid that he can flip them for online right now.
And I don't want to judge a book by its cover, but as soon as this guy walked in, I'm like, oh man, he's just here for Pokemon stuff.
Yeah.
Because he had a certain look.
Yeah.
And then a little bit, just shortly after that, 2 other dudes come in who look like that dude, but more also just got out of prison, gold teeth, facial tattoos, all this stuff.
That's cool. Guys like that sometimes are really into Pokemon,
right?
Though. That's awesome.
And they came in, they saw the Pokemon stuff.
You more or less just described Post Malone, who's legitimately a huge Pokemon fan.
They saw the Pokemon stuff. I had already talked to Josh.
Sure.
So it was up for grabs. And they bought 2 of the 5 items.
Okay.
The other guy, the one who was buying them, his friend was extremely disappointed because we didn't have more for him.
Yeah.
And the moral of that story, yeah, they came in because my little brother just told me you had all this stuff. He came in looking for it before, but couldn't get it. But he was looking to buy it for me anyway. The guy who complained about us.
Right. No, I got it.
Yeah. No, I was saying it to the listener.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So the guy who hated the customer service and
Uh-huh.
doesn't want to shop with us immediately got us a sale.
Yeah, I hope it wasn't for that first guy though. Like that's what I'm
No,
curious about. In the
he said it
conversation.
was his little brother who was trying to buy it for him. He's like,
Okay.
so now I just got it myself.
Okay, so I mean that it turns out that first guy was not being some weird pushy jerk because he wanted to flip it online. I guess.
I mean, if you believe either of them.
Sure. I almost never do. I think I'd mentioned to you. I don't know if I ever told this story on the podcast, but we had somebody who called up looking for Moon Knight #3, which was the Hunter's Moon first full appearance issue.
Yeah.
And it was.
You know what's hilarious about that cover?
What's that?
When I first saw that cover, the Steve McNiven Jay Lee homage,
Yeah.
I thought he was just doing a really weird version of Moon Knight based off of Jay Lee's art.
Sure, that's fair.
I did not realize, like, oh no,
It was a different character.
that is a different character.
Yeah. So anyway, so we had 8 or 9 copies of Moon Knight #3 left on a Sunday, and somebody had called up wanting to know if we had copies, and I said we did, and they said, do you guys have a limit? I'm like, yeah, we have a limit of 2 copies per person per day for the first week of release, which this still was for that Moon Knight issue, and they're like, I'm coming away from Wisconsin, and I got a couple friends that want copies. And, like, is there any way I can get 3? And at that point, again, we have 9 copies left. It's basically going to go on the regular wall on Tuesday. So we're like, and this is near the end of the day on Sunday. So I'm like, you know what? Fine, I will let you get 3 copies.
Idiot.
Because we have a bunch. And Patrick already is mad at me at this point in the story. And the joke of it is that the guy comes in. He's like, yeah, I called before about Moon Knight. And he's in with his girlfriend or a woman that he's with, his same age. So I hand him his copies of Moon Knight. I'm like, hey, here you go.
His 3 copies.
3 copies of Moon Knight.
During the first week.
One more than he should have based on our rules that we are usually very strict about. Walks around the store, comes back up to the counter with 3 copies of Moon Knight #3, as well as like a copy of Moon Knight #2 second print that I think had just come out.
Yeah.
And then like a promo poster or like a button or something, like some other cheap thing. So grateful. Thank you so much for doing this. No problem. His girlfriend's behind him, comes up to the counter, 2 more copies of Moon Knight #3, and I was just like, oh, god damn it. Oh, you're flipping these. That's all you're doing. You're buying as many copies as you can from as many stores in the city that are still selling it for cover price, because right now it's like $20 online, because it's the first full interior appearance of Hunter Moon in costume, first cover appearance. What if he's on Disney Plus? And I was just like, wow, you have ruined it for everyone in perpetuity. Every single person. Because every time someone calls up with some sob story, some reason why, could you bend the rules for me this one time?
No doubt. You've ruined it because you believed him.
I'm going to think about this time that I was like, fine, I'll let you get an extra copy. And all it was a scam. All it was someone using sob story to get more copies of something to flip online. I will never, ever, ever, ever forget that.
But wait, don't you think on the opposite side of that story, how refreshing it was this week to see all of those people that were so invested in the John Kent story that they just wanted to read more about his future boyfriend.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we sold all of our copies of Superman Son of Kal #2 cover A within 15 minutes of being open on Wednesday, which is weird because
that book had been out for a month.
Yeah, well, not only that, but the news had broken like 3 or 4 days ago.
Yeah.
And people already knew online, like, they found out, people just dug through the issues and went, oh, the boyfriend first appears in issue 2. So we knew Monday that people were already like, I need copies of issue 2 of Superman Son of Kal-El. And we didn't sell any. But like Wednesday morning, suddenly people were lined up outside for it. And I knew what it was. Like, we will sometimes have a line on a Tuesday or on a Wednesday morning when we get to the store. But it's usually like something huge is coming out that week. Some massive first issue or some huge speculator thing or whatever. And there wasn't really anything this week that popped as far as we were aware. Like, not only had most of the Image stuff been delayed, like Gunslinger Spawn #1 and King Spawn, but like...
No, that's not true. A whole bunch of stores in the city were selling
stores
those.
sold it, but at the same time it was delayed by Diamond Comic Distributors.
That's true.
And Marvel had virtually nothing out. And the DC stuff, I mean, didn't strike me as anything that was huge as far as, like, big new releases. I think Son of Kal-El 4? But even that, like, we weren't getting a lot of people asking for it at the last minute.
Also haven't sold out.
Yeah, so when we saw people outside, it's like, oh, they're probably here for Son of Kal-El #2. Or probably Gunslinger Spawn. It was one of those two books. Either maybe they hadn't heard that Gunslinger Spawn was delayed. But sure enough, like the two guys that were right in front, right at the front door, when they came up to the counter, it was every copy of cover A we had of Son of Kal #2, as well as like a couple cover Bs of #2, and then like some other issues that we had on the shelf for that series.
And how did that kind of bite us a little bit?
We had an online order that had come in overnight for 2 copies of Son of Kal #2 cover A, but we frequently don't have time first thing to pull online orders, and sure enough, by the time we had a chance to go to the shelves and look for it, sold out.
Yep.
Didn't have copies to pull. Which, I mean, unfortunately, like, on the one hand, you want to say, like, we should have pulled that immediately because it came in beforehand. But on the other hand, it's like, you're ordering something online, you're kind of rolling the dice. Like, I hate to say it that way, but you kind of are. Because you could order something online. I could see the order and go to print the pick ticket out and go to the shelves and grab it. But between those two
Somebody
things,
could pick it up?
yeah, someone could just have gone to the shelf and grabbed it. Like, anything can happen. You are, unfortunately, kind of rolling the dice because we don't have dedicated online stock. We're not that kind of store. You are ordering from our shelf stock. I order stuff frequently from a toy store in Japan called Mandarake, and they have a little warning when something is what they call a storefront item, and it basically means something that's on display. They will fill the order, but there's a chance that when they go to fill it, it's not there anymore.
Can you put that on every item on our web store?
What I could maybe do is maybe work a disclaimer in that basically says, like, hey, we have to grab this off the shelf, so you may get a notification that it's unavailable and you may get refunded.
Because literally everything on our website is a storefront item.
It is. But I mean, that's why there'd maybe just be a disclaimer. Like,
No, I know. I was just
a little pop-up thing when you go to
like
the cart.
their terminology for it.
Storefront item, yeah.
Yeah. So I thought we would use it.
Just completely mimic it. Sure.
Sure. On every single item.
Yeah. I mean, most
Have
items...
to be a giant disclaimer before, like, the description little
yeah,
underneath.
that's kind of the joke, is that, like, almost every figure I've ever bought from Mandarake is a storefront item, because they're all, like, on display. I don't know what they stock that is not considered a storefront item.
Sure. I mentioned a little bit ago about image books that were withheld last week.
Yes.
Because there were supply chain issues, which, I mean, seriously, get used to hearing that phrase, everybody.
Oh, man, we'll cover it a couple times this episode alone.
Yep.
3 times, I think, that I can think of, depending on what you're talking about here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we'll probably just lump them all into this.
2 image things and 1 bad idea thing.
I don't know if I know your second. Oh, I do know. Okay.
Yeah. Second is right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there were the majority of our image books for this week, we were asked to not sell them to make it fair for everybody else. Basically, the fulfillment of single issues is...
It was basically every cover for Ant #1, every cover for Gunslinger Spawn #1, every cover for King Spawn #3, and every cover for Anita Hawes Nightmare Blog #1.
Right.
All of that stuff was like, if you got it, you hold it back till next week. And some stores had been completely shorted. Some stores had been slightly allocated. Even for us, like,
we were slightly allocated.
Yeah, there was like a couple covers we didn't get, and some copies of individual covers that we didn't get all of.
And we talked briefly about this last week. But we were allocated like 3 total copies.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
nothing
it.
that was a big deal. If we hadn't gotten the notification from Diamond, we would have had more than enough copies for subscribers
for
and
sure.
for the shelf.
But we got the notification last Friday morning, which is why we talked about it on last week's podcast.
Yep.
We're like, okay, we're not going to do it.
Easy enough.
So when those books came in, it was a little difficult for you because you had to go in and change the on-sale date for those items.
I learned a lesson.
And then do it again.
Yeah, it turns out that when you receive the invoice from Diamond through Comic Suite, it refactors the on-sale dates, the block that it has in the system to not sell it before a certain date. So I had already changed all of the matching items to not sell until the following week.
Which doesn't sound like a lot, but there was like 15 covers of Spawn. Or
Yeah,
whatever
I mean,
it is.
that said,
not that many.
Honestly,
but a lot.
all I ended up changing was anything that had subscribers, because anything that was a shelf copy was going to sit in the box anyway.
that's
so
fair.
it's just like,
It's
it
fair.
wouldn't come up.
But then, because it already populated on the subscriber lists,
Yeah.
we had to make sure to put those aside and denote them to staff
Yeah.
that people cannot get these this week. Did it come up in their accounts?
No, because that's what happens when you change the on-sale date. It won't come up in their accounts. Just
Beautiful.
like if you had pulled club books for someone on Tuesday,
Yeah.
and then they came in Tuesday night, the
It
new
doesn't-
stuff wouldn't show up because
Sure.
it's an on-sale date up
Gotcha.
to the next day.
Gotcha. Perfect.
So the good news is I'll just do it again this coming Tuesday after you've received the invoice. I'll just go in and change everything.
So, plenty of stores, and definitely stores in Chicago, were selling those books. By the way, there's a store
Shocker.
in the city. Can you guess what they're selling Ant #1 for?
Hopefully below cover price.
$12.
Why?
I don't know.
Weird.
I don't know.
What if there's an Ant movie?
Yeah. Ridiculous.
It's the answer for everything.
But yeah, so definitely stores in the city were selling the product. Mm-hmm. And because it's a Friday, it happened again. We got an email
An
today.
even weirder one,
Yeah.
I thought. Because before it was, if you get these books, not everyone did, you can't sell them. But this time it's like, you should not have gotten these books at all.
Yeah.
So you can't sell them until the following week.
Well, so I went through the invoice, and basically, it was a list of things we can't sell.
Yeah.
So there's 4 books we're getting we can't sell.
Mm-hmm.
But from the list of books you're getting and you can't sell, there's like 4 other books we're not even getting.
Yeah.
So, fine.
Now, and plus, I mean, between what we can sell and then what from the previous week is now sellable, it's not affecting us nearly as much as it did this past week for Image, where it was like, oh, the absolute biggest books for Image, and frankly, for the week, we can't sell now.
Yeah.
Great.
But it's like Primordial.
Yeah.
It's
Should I
Crossover.
look it up?
And there's just 2 more. Those are the two bigger ones for us.
Yeah.
And then, because there were a lot of discussions in retailer groups about retailers saying, well, I'm doing it anyway, or I can't read every single email I get from Diamond, or I was busy this week, I was out of town, a thousand reasons.
I wish,
it's not the end of the world.
Like, I wish that I at least respect the stores that are like, I'm just ignoring this.
Yeah.
If they just said that, it's like, this is terrible, but at least you're not trying to do the, like, this is all Diamond's fault that I'm selling them early. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Take responsibility.
So then somebody else took screenshots off their phone of those lists and posted them in every retailer group
Sure.
for next week.
Uh-huh.
It's like, hey, now you've all seen it.
I can't be expected to go to the forum every day.
Right.
I
But
mean, I can when it's time to complain, but not when it's time to read things.
Well, somebody had said, hey, does anybody need extra copies of Gunslinger number Spawn? Gunslinger number 1? Sorry, let me rephrase that.
Try again.
Does anyone need copies of Gunslinger Spawn number 1 from this week? And I had said, somebody said no, because we couldn't sell it yet. And I commented like, man, it's really annoying to be the people that are holding the books back when I'm seeing so many other retailers that aren't doing it. Mm-hmm. And then the poster said, you can sell it, here's the email. And then someone else said, yeah, that email was from earlier in the week, here's the email from Friday. Oh, I didn't see that.
Weird that they saw the one that allowed them to do it and take some sort of weird moral high ground, and not the second one where they were acting in opposition to it.
But I made sure to like every retailer comment when a retailer had said things like, this is why retailers get bad names. This is why no one can trust retailers. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because you can't.
To quote, I think, Christian Cage, they're just carny pieces of shit.
That's definitely a Christian Cage quote. Yeah. You paraphrased.
I did. I paraphrased. It's not
a
quote.
It was
to paraphrase
Christian
Cage.
Yeah.
Carny pieces of shit.
In this instance, the comics retailers are Don Callis.
Yeah. And it's exactly what I expected to happen. As soon as Diamond's like, please don't do this, you are basically giving the green light to a bunch of people to go against that, because now they're like, oh, I can make more money now. Like, that's all you told people.
Are you okay with Grolix in an episode title?
Sure.
Okay, got it. Writing this down now.
Carney with a Y, I believe it is.
Yeah,
right?
it is, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's the market. Like,
so it's $, pound symbol, exclamation mark, T.
Cool. I love it. Yeah, that's always has been, and frankly always will be, the market for as many people who come into comics retail with, fresh ideas and, intentions to make it a more moral or ethical industry. The DNA of comics retail is like flea markets and comic shows and, paying off UPS drivers and, marking up day of release books and all that stuff. Like, that's not going anywhere. It's going to always exist within comics. I mean, one of my hopes and dreams in the early part of the pandemic was maybe this kills off single issue comics and therefore kills off the collectability aspect of comics and makes it something where it can just be about the stories, so you don't have to deal with this side of it.
I only care about first print stories. If I'm reading a story and it's not first print, the story is worthless to me.
I only read first editions. glasses up nose.
That's why I don't follow any teaching from the Bible, because I don't have Gutenberg's Bible.
That's true. Yeah, so that was one of the things this week, was Image Books yet again being slightly delayed due to supply chain issues. Image sent out another different email this week. I think today as well.
Well, the first email was from Diamond, technically.
Yeah, but it was
on
another...
Image's behalf.
Hey, this is an Image thing.
Yeah.
And then we got a second email... I don't know if it was
second, huh?
from Diamond or from Image, because I think we got two of them.
It was the weekly, basically the retailer FOC letter from Image.
Mm-hmm. And it had a thing at the top that basically said, due to supply chain issues and an overall paper shortage...
They used a different phrase... And I thought, like, oh man, like the supply chain, so something else.
Disruptions, probably.
Something, like, just different enough that it stood out to me, the way it was. But they talked about the shuffling of the titles that they've been doing, and they're pretty sure they have it fixed for now. In a different post, Alex Cox was talking about it being a blip.
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to... Can I quote this?
I don't think you can.
Okay, so I won't.
Can you at least get the supply chain, whatever, the way they just
crunch?
Did it? Oh, okay, crunch.
Supply chain crunch.
Okay.
The overall thing is this, and it's something that will be an issue for the rest of the year and probably into next year.
Or lack of issues. Am I right?
Potentially. And it's that...
I was right, though.
You were right.
Thank you.
There's paper shortages is kind of the whole thing. So... DC has already needed to rearrange certain scheduling things, and we're hearing from a lot of places like, hey, there is not really the chance to go back to press on a lot of graphic novels. So what you order maybe on initial orders, maybe what you might have for the holiday season. So make sure you're ordering a bunch up front, which to my mind is always like, so there's no paper, so we should order more. So how are they going to make those? With what paper? But some of it is just forecasting, where it's like, there's paper right now.
Yeah, we get so many extra cardboard boxes every week that I feel like we are responsible for part of these shortages.
But there will maybe not be paper in like a couple months based on the current usage. So like, even if you used a ton right now, there's still some coming in, but like there will be a point where maybe less paper. So anyway, long story short, Image said that one of the things they're doing to deal with the paper shortage, to basically make sure that, you know, they can still get new issues out and all the variant covers, I guess, that people need. Their decision on how they're going to deal with the paper shortage is, for the foreseeable future, their words, no second prints.
No second prints.
So if, Gunslinger Spawn #1 sells out, that's it.
Yeah.
If, what else is coming out through the end of the year? I don't know. If Saga number 55 sells out.
What about the Scorched?
If any of those sell out, that's it. So that is a thing that is, not great as far as a store that definitely tries to prioritize readers
Reading
over collectors. So the idea of stuff selling out very fast is going to, or there not being second prints available is a huge boon for the exact same stores I was just talking about as being Cary Pieces of shit, where they're going to massively inflate prices of hot books because there will be no second or third or fourth prints to meet reader demand. So if you want a copy of Scorched #1, you have to buy the ones that come in the week of release because that's it.
It'd be great for Image if they had the same mentality as Bad Idea, because Bad Idea never does second prints. So Image could just do not first prints. Retailer reactions so far have been somebody used the Scarlet Witch No More Mutants graphic and changed it to second prints.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the gist of it. What you're going to be seeing from a lot of publishers is no good decisions, but the least bad decisions. Every choice that Image was going to make in response to the supply chain crunch or the paper shortage was going to be something that was going to hurt an element of their customer base or a part of their market.
Because there's no way to not do that.
Right. Like, you have a shortage, something has to get cut. So you have decisions like, do you delay other, do you delay new comics to then print reprints of older comics? Like, do you push back Scorched #2 a month so you can reprint Scorched #1 where Scorched #2 would be? Like, there's some stores that would love that because it's like, oh, great, I sold out. I definitely need copies of that. I want to get people on board this book. But then there's going to be other stores who are like, I still have copies. Now I have to go a month not selling this other book. or stores who are like, I would rather have this new thing to sell than more of this old thing to sell. Like, I will sell more Scorched 2 first prints than I will Scorched 1 second prints. So you're going to have to piss somebody off. And the frustrating thing to me is that what you're going to be seeing a lot of is kind of elements of like the Pokemon cards and the other stuff, where trying to sell something ethically, trying to sell it at as close to cover price as possible, like we do for non-incentive variants, is going to be costing you money. Because you will sell out of stuff immediately. You will not have something else that you can sell instead. And there's going to be stores across the country that are going to be making multiples of cover price and crowing about it online. And you'll have a customer base that's going to take it. Because that's kind of what we've seen across the board for these shortages, is people just paying the premium. So it's not great. And it's frustrating certain amounts of people who can't get what they used to be able to get easily, and other people who are paying more for what they got previously. And it's just bad all the way around. And yeah, man, I don't love the idea that Image is prioritizing inadvertently the collector online seller market over the reader market. I don't love that.
But I understand it.
Yeah, again, it's the least bad decision. I certainly want new issues of books to come out more than I want reprints, but I dislike the idea that, you know, we are in a mode where it is just going to be accelerating how terrible the online marketplace is going to get for comic books, and how much stores are going to get swarmed by people who are going to be gobbling up copies to flip online.
They should let me decide what books they're going to print moving forward.
Yeah, like, look, I'll be honest with you. If I was making this decision at Image, if my job as Image publisher was to kind of, you know, King Solomon this, my ruling would be no variant covers.
There you go. That's easier.
Like, yeah, I would rather, you know, 2 copies of Scorched number 2 instead of 6, and then reprint Scorched number 1. Or, like, remove one of the variants and do a reprint instead. Like, that's just the trade-off. Like, if a creative team wants to reprint an upcoming issue, or an issue that just sold out, do one less variant the next time. Like, just plug that in its place. Instead, you're not seeing variant covers slowing down at all. Radiant Black, a book that we like, a book that we sell.
Oh, that's one of the ones that was on the you can't sell next week list, but we're not even getting it.
They're doing 4 variants, 4 covers for an upcoming issue. They're doing the A cover, the B cover, the 1 in 25 C cover, and then the Blacklight edition.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, we're going to order. The Blacklight edition sounds very cool. And
yeah.
it's a premium issue, so we're going to order a bunch because it sounds like it's actually a different reading experience. But, like, at the same time, when I'm seeing that, and Image is also not going back to press on first issues that we've sold out of and have demand for, and is now artificially capping what we can sell for issues 2, 3, 4, and onward, I'm going to get upset when I see that they're releasing 6 covers for Magic Order 2 number 1 or whatever. Yeah, man, that's going to piss me off, because it's like, there's a paper shortage, and that's where the paper one allocated was 7 covers for a new book, and you can't reprint something else. That's going to bug me.
Somebody else asked if that meant they're canceling Walking Dead Deluxe.
They're not. There will still be upcoming issues that have 5 covers or whatever.
Well,
sure.
But also because it's not a second print, it is
no.
a different reading experience.
Yeah, that's not a second print.
Yeah.
You're not going to weasel word your way out of that one. No. Yeah, that's a completely separate book.
And someone else just complained, like, lost sales.
It is. It's completely lost sales. And that's the frustration is...
No, order more of the first prints now.
I mean, if they're going back to returnability, we absolutely will.
I went higher on several DC books
Good.
that are in FOC today because they're returnable.
Great. I always want to take advantage of that.
Did you... I don't know if this was announced before, but I just heard about it today.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder Woman Historia.
Yeah. What about it?
What is it?
Oh, is it like a prose and...
No, I mean, maybe, but I mean, like...
It's a Black Label oversized book.
Okay, how many issues?
I don't remember.
What's the frequency?
I don't remember.
It's 3 issues.
Okay.
First issue, now.
Uh-huh.
Next issue.
Uh-huh.
Oh, who draws it?
Only Phil Jimenez for the first issue. There's other artists for each subsequent
Yes.
one.
Issue 2, Gene Ha.
Okay.
Comes out in spring.
Okay.
Issue 3,
Uh-huh.
Nicola Scott.
Uh-huh.
A year from now.
Yeah, and the joke of this is that Wonder Woman Historia was announced, I think, in the initial batch of Black Label announcements.
Yeah.
Back, like, before Batman the Damned came out, it was like, oh, Kelly Sue DeConnick and Phil Jimenez are doing the history of the Amazons and Wonder Woman Historia. And then...
You want to say Amazonia, don't you?
I do. And
you
then,
do every time.
And then it took, like, 3 years to come out, and then suddenly it was like, Phil Jimenez and a bunch of great Wonder Woman artists. It's like, oh, what happened here? What happened here?
You're not doing anybody any favors by making this book every 4 months.
It's very strange. It is an incredibly weird way to do it.
They did show...
just do a graphic novel.
Right. They showed a variant cover, which I thought was great, but also terrible. It just looks like a leather-bound book.
That's the incentive cover. When I saw that, I'm like, oh, that's so great, because no one's going to want it.
I'm like, I like it, but at least do like a Wonder Woman symbol or something in gold foil on the...
I think we have one request for that one, and it's, yeah, it's not... I don't think it's one that a lot of people are going to care about.
Well, so, Wonder Woman Evolution...
Uh-huh.
So there's 3 Wonder Woman books that are coming out the same week.
Okay.
Just like this week was 3 Catwoman books.
Sure. Well, it is Catwoman's 80th anniversary. Wait, no, it's not. It's Wonder Woman's.
Also, I don't know that actually my statement is erroneous because I think we are FOCing Historia well in advance.
Okay.
But maybe not, though. No, I think not. But anyway.
Okay.
So in the same FOC...
I feel like FOC has to be this week because they are just sending out stuff to... Yeah. So, you think there's a longer delay between when we're FOCing it when it comes out?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
Okay.
But anyway, I FOC'd this week Wonder Woman Black and Gold, Wonder Woman Evolution, and Wonder Woman Historia.
Okay.
And in my mind, Historia is the bigger book of the 3. But I think we hit more subs for Evolution.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
But it's also like a $4 book versus an $8 book.
Yeah, the Kelly Sue DeConnick superhero stuff is incredibly strange to me because I remember when Aquaman was coming out, and it was not long after Bitch Planet had gone on its by now indefinite hiatus. Remember when it was like, oh, we're going to do this miniseries, and then that'll buy us some time to come back and do the next arc, and then literally everyone just stopped talking about it forever.
Yeah.
And Valentine DeLandro just lands on random projects, and you're like, whatever happened to Bitch Planet? Anyway.
I was bagging and boarding my books from the last year.
Uh-huh.
And in it was a random copy of Bitch Planet 10.
What I think would be hilarious is if the oversized Saga 55, the oversized part is Bitch Planet 11 is in the back. There we go. We brought this one back too. Anyway.
There's your paper supply shortage.
Anyway. I remember when Aquaman was coming out thinking, God, this is going to be huge because, Kelly Sue's got Bitch Planet and Pretty Deadly and that whole audience who's going to come to this Aquaman book because she's writing it, and also like Captain Marvel is a movie that's coming out or whatever. Maybe I already had by that point. I don't remember. And no one cared. Like, no. Basically nobody cared. We were like club only on that book by like 6 chapters in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, on the one hand, you look at it and you're like, God, Kelly Sue DeConnick's a huge name. She's not anymore because in comics she kind of hasn't done anything in years. And that audience for her is very, very, very specific about what it wants to read from her. Hopefully Wonder Woman fits the bill a little better than Aquaman did. But, yeah, that is a fan base that has had a pretty fallow period. Pretty fallow. I don't know if they're coming back in January or December or whatever after basically a Pretty Deadly arc, I think is all they got.
Yeah.
Since
3 of 5.
Not counting Aquaman, which they weren't reading. You got a Pretty Deadly arc, and that's it. And like all of the other stuff that's ever been announced, I remember vaguely asking an Image rep that we talked to during the shutdown, like, wasn't there a Kelly Sue book that was coming out, like Parisian White?
Yeah, Parisian White with Bill Sienkiewicz.
That got announced at like an Image Expo.
The first Image Expo, I want to say.
3 years ago or whatever.
Maybe not the first,
and it was just like, whatever happened?
Many years ago.
Like that and the Matt Fraction, Chip Zdarsky, Annie Wu book. that we were like,
Yeah.
this looks amazing, and then it just never got mentioned ever again,
And then
anywhere.
Annie Wu's own book,
Yeah.
Dead Boyfriends Club,
Yeah.
which apparently she's still hard at work on.
Great. I'm glad for it. I hope all these projects eventually come out, but there is a thing where you're announcing these projects and then nothing comes out in the meantime. And I've mentioned it before, I think, on the podcast, that it's so sad to me. And I understand financially why they did it, that Matt Fraction and Kelly Sue DeConnick kind of made more of a push towards media stuff, doing like scripts for things and pilots for projects. But the problem is none of that stuff comes out, and then you have basically disappeared from your original market for years at a time. And you come back and you're doing an arc of like Adventure Man, and no one cares. Because like your bigger projects are so in the rear view. It can happen to every writer. Like, no matter how big your project is, you go away for years at a time. I don't know how much of your original fan base is left.
Yeah.
And the people who are there now have not necessarily been mining the back catalog as much as you think they have. So, I don't know. Like, I hope this Historia thing is huge, and I hope it does great stuff for everyone involved. And I hope Kelly Sue does an image project that you know, revitalizes the fan base. I don't think it's going to be Bitch Planet 11. Based on our sales for the third Pretty Deadly arc, is probably not going to be the fourth Pretty Deadly arc. But, I mean, she's a great writer with great ideas, and I hope something really huge comes out.
And then I also went up a little on Robins.
I didn't read that yet.
Because it's returnable.
That's good. Which covers?
Speaking of the FOC as a whole,
okay,
the FOC, the
final order cutoff process?
Yes.
Okay.
This week is a perfect example of how it really doesn't help.
Mm-hmm.
So we turned in initial orders
yes.
on Thursday.
Thursday for everybody. At
Yeah.
least Diamond. I mean, Diamond went in Thursday and other people went in a couple days before.
Sure.
This Sunday,
you are doing the final orders for Devil's Reign number 1.
A bunch of Marvel books. FOC.
Things that
3
we
days
just
after the initial orders closed.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
How does that help anyone?
Doesn't do anything for us.
How many extra orders did we get from our subscribers in those last 3 days?
I'll be honest.
How much of a social media blitz did Marvel do for anybody's
it
information?
It probably helps us, Challengers, as a store, more than most stores. Because you do the initial orders for Marvel, and I do the FOCs, or Molly J does the FOCs for Marvel. And so that gets at least 2 sets of eyes on the numbers. So it honestly will help us to some small degree of at least, you know, another person going, oh, we should get more of that, or no, that number's good.
Yeah, but I mean that...
But it doesn't help most stores.
The process overall.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for most
it's
stores
always...
where the same person does the initial orders as FOCs, this weekend, I mean, you can skip it. You can skip every book that's shipping in December because you literally just ordered them.
I often wonder if we were just a one-person ordering system, if we would do something different with the ordering structure. You know, how some people don't do initials, they just do FOCs, things like that.
Oh, I don't know.
Like if it was one person who had to do initials and FOCs, would we still...
I think we still would, because you and I both have the same philosophy of why would you not at least build yourself a safety net?
Yeah.
Like, what if something happens and you are unable in one way or another to do FOCs for a weekend? Like, at least if you've done initial orders, something's going to come in.
Yeah. Yeah, and today was... I always feel good about my DC numbers, and then after the books come out, I feel terrible about them.
Mm-hmm.
But this week was, we cut a bunch of stuff, we added a bunch of stuff.
Sure, that's great.
You know, some books, it's like, all right, I'm going to go up 3 copies based on previous sales. Some books, I'm going to go up 12 copies.
Yeah, I think we had talked about this. I think we could afford to be a little bit more optimistic or aggressive, whatever you want to call it, about our DC numbers. I think we spent a
but
while...
not overall.
No, yeah, I mean...
Specific ones.
Yeah, I'm not saying that suddenly we should get, you know, double the amount of copies of Teen Titans Academy.
Right, but then
know what that
look
book
at
is
something
selling.
like
But
Refrigerator
launches.
Full of Heads.
Yeah.
Or does that not count because it's not technically DC?
It counts. What do you want to say about it?
That I went, I looked at what we were selling of Basket Full of Heads by the end of it, and went up a couple, expecting new people. We sold.
Yeah, no one was down for that.
35% of
Yeah, nobody cares.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, that's a thing that, honestly, when I saw it, I was like, this feels like a high number.
But it was so much lower than where Basket started.
The problem is no one's down for this.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't have solid numbers left for Basket Full of Heads.
Right. The problem is none of this stuff was necessarily ever announced as continuing, so a lot of the orders got cleared.
Yeah, and on top of that, like, it's a different writer. So a lot of what people were buying before was Joe Hill writes this, like, 70s slasher film. Now it's a different writer, and it's maybe a different era, and I don't know how much...
It's a sequel.
Okay. I mean, it clearly a sequel based on the title, but, like, you know, Halloween had sequels, and it wasn't necessarily the exact same characters.
Yeah, but almost everybody saw all the sequels.
Yes, that's true. There was zero drop between the first and last one.
Is Car Boot Full of Heads?
Maybe.
What's a good...
Igloo
Full of Heads. I think that's a little further down.
Maybe.
Space Full of Heads.
Refrigerator Full of Heads was definitely one where it was like, I don't know. But, like, yeah, certainly for DC superhero stuff.
It definitely paints a graphic image in your head.
It's a lot of heads, for sure.
That's like one of the reasons we said, our band name, not yours and mine.
No.
We went with Serpent Crown, because no matter whether you're familiar with the Marvel Universe or not, someone says Serpent Crown, you put an image in your head immediately.
That's a crown of serpents.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is it a crown covered in serpents? Is it a crown made out of serpents? I don't know. It's yours.
Is it a crown for a serpent?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
A tiny crown for a snake.
Yeah. Jenny Frison wonderfully put like she did one of her Medusa prints for us for her art show, and she put a little crown on a snake.
A little serpent crown.
Yeah. For Serpent Crown specifically.
Yeah, I guess you could make the argument that, like, for stuff that's not DC superhero related, it's okay to be a little bit more conservative about what you're ordering. But yeah, for DC superhero projects, a lot of the ones that are coming out, they've been pleasantly surprising.
Except you already called out Titans United.
Well, I said Teen Titans Academy.
Oh, sorry.
Because my point is, like, you don't need to double something that's on issue 7.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, it's stuff that we would normally go like 15 or 20 copies on. Maybe go to 30. Like, see how it goes. It's not great.
I didn't go up that high.
Well, it's not great business necessarily in the short term to, you know, bet hard on a bunch of number ones. And certainly there's things we don't believe in. When we look at it, we're like, there's no reason for this book to exist.
Like Buddha.
I'll just bring back Titans United. But there's other stuff where maybe not. And it's like, well, let's err on the side of maybe then and go a little heavier on it just to see where it goes. Because, yeah, I certainly don't want to run out of issue 1s. I don't like when we find that there's actually a decent book coming out and then we don't have enough copies to really promote it. Like, that sucks. Luckily, we're both reading a lot more DC previews.
Yeah.
So we're getting a little bit more on the ball as far as like, oh, this is a thing that we could do more with.
So in that vein, here's a quick rundown of stuff that you or I or both of us have read recently that hasn't quite come out yet.
Sure. Or is coming out,
coming out very soon. And I'm just going in the order that things are written on the whiteboard.
Okay.
Dark Knights of Steel.
Yeah, it's the new Tom Taylor, Yasmin Putri fantasy Elseworlds book.
It's not just Batman, it's the whole DC universe, but sword and sorcery.
Yeah, I think
fantasy.
The gimmick for the book is that the rocket from Krypton lands basically on a fantasy planet.
Yeah. Like in Camelot, but with no King Arthur.
Right. So, and then it flashes forward and you kind of have this DC universe that's built more around like a D&D campaign, more or less, where there's these individual kingdoms and each kingdom is kind of like a different superhero. And it's just really good Tom Taylor world building where he's able to take this, you know, like Dark Ages or like Injustice and really sort of build out a lot of like, okay, but what else? And just keep the idea rolling. I like the art a lot. I'm not a fantasy guy by any stretch.
Neither am I.
But I thought the first issue was very fun.
Really enjoyed it.
It really delivers. There's a couple like kind of holy shit moments in it, which was great. It's what you want in the first issue of a 12-issue series.
Yeah. It's basically an Elseworlds series, but they don't do Elseworlds anymore. They do Black Label.
Yeah.
Real fun. Highly recommended.
Yeah, worth checking out.
Next up, it actually came out this week, Catwoman Lonely City.
Mm-hmm.
It is an older Selena Kyle, just released from prison. A lot of the main Gotham characters and protagonists that we know are dead. and it's a heist book.
Yeah.
From someone who just needs to prove they still got it.
Yeah, but also like a story about somebody who is, like
it's an allegory for the Vietnam War.
It's an allegory for the Vietnam War. It's true. It's a book that it's the sort of book a middle-aged creator makes, more or less, where it's just like, let's deal with the idea of like, what have we learned, and what kind of person do we want to be remembered as? Like, that's Selena Kyle's a great character to do that with, because she's an anti-hero character. She's been, a crime fighter. She's been a villain. She's been a thief. She's been a neighborhood protector, and she's got all these different things. And
she's been a thief. She's been a lover. She's been a child. She's been a mother.
Yeah. So she's at this point in her life where it's time to kind of decide what of those things is most important to her. What does she want to be remembered as, and what can she do with the time she has left? So it is this kind of like one last score kind of heisty movie experience, but also, with a character who has a lot of different shades to her. I enjoyed it.
And then the other characters, like the surviving characters in this universe, and putting the crew together. It's a real fun Catwoman heist book.
It is, yeah.
And is it 3 issues? 5 issues?
I never remember.
I think
3 or
it's
4.
And we've read the first 2.
I only read the first one.
I read the first 2. A lot of fun. Robin and Batman, a DC book written by Jeff Lemire and painted by Dustin Wing, who they did Ascender and Descender. Did you read it?
I did.
I thought it was okay.
I really liked it.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's a very like Robin Year 1 story. It is, or Robin Year 0 maybe, because it's at a point where Dick Grayson has been adopted by Bruce Wayne, and he's training to be Robin, but, it's kind of dealing with how does Batman get on board with the idea that a young boy should be in a war on crime? Well,
the real answer is he shouldn't.
He shouldn't. So, I mean, the series is kind of like grappling with what does being Robin mean to Dick Grayson, and what does it mean to Alfred, and what does it mean to Bruce Wayne, and what does it mean to Batman, and kind of how all these characters are dealing with, what is kind of the next step in how Dick Grayson heals as a survivor of trauma. Like, what does that look like? What does the grieving and healing process look like for this
concepts
kid?
Never really considered in the first 70 years of these characters.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that you can do in 2021 where you don't take it as given, like, oh yeah, of course Batman has like a kid sidekick who like fights mobsters and stuff.
There's a hostage situation on Ardmore in Villa Park.
Oh, Jesus.
Roads are closed.
That's not cool.
Yeah. Different life.
Yeah. That is sad to hear.
I'm sorry, I cut you off of your Robin and Batman.
I think I'm done. I mean, I liked it. I thought it's exactly what you would think Jeff Lemire would do with the concept. He's really delving into the psychology of the characters and giving a lot more space to basically turn Dick Grayson from a kid who watched his parents get murdered to, Batman's partner in a war on crime. Like, how do you get from A to B there?
Next comes out next week. DC vs. Vampires.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Oh man,
yeah,
I like Otto Schmidt a lot. I do.
Love Otto Schmidt's art, and it's literally what it says it is.
Yeah. It once again, it feels like one of those Tom Taylor books where there's just this like a whole lot of really bold chances taken and a lot of interesting elements to the world, and kind of how they're doing a story where, like, I think this is a thing that James Tynion, who co-created the concept with Matthew Rosenberg, and Matt Rosenberg, I think, is the one who's going to be writing the series kind of going forward.
Yeah.
James Tynion had said that one of the things he wanted to do was that he had already done the DC series, and DC's kind of kicks off very fast as far as like the zombie apocalypse part. Or no, he didn't do that.
Yeah, it was Tom Taylor. Yeah.
So what was he thinking of? Because I remember James Tynion saying there was something where he wanted to kind of have a slower rollout.
Yeah.
Of what the apocalypse was. God, it wasn't DC's. God, it was something else. Maybe it was a reaction to DC's. I don't know. So DC versus Vampires is a much like, how do we get to this gigantic, darker story? Like, how do we do the earlier steps?
I think he was saying it was in relation to how quickly he had to pace his Batman story because he thought he was leaving it quickly.
Maybe. I feel like it was a different, like, DC, like, Cataclysm sort of storyline. I can't remember what it was. But anyway, or maybe it was the Justice Doom War. Maybe it was that stuff. I don't know.
Maybe.
Anyway, DC versus Vampires is a ton of fun.
Yeah, really liked it. It's another 12-issue series. I think that these... Again, it could be an Elseworlds book.
Yeah, but it's gory and violent and funny. Pretty funny.
Really, really, like, Dark Knights of Steel and DC vs. Vampires are my two, like, God, these are... hopefully we can sell these for the next year.
I hope, yeah.
Pitch and talk people into.
Yeah, I think they definitely have a wide appeal.
Along the same lines, and also Matthew Rosenberg, is Task Force Z, which is basically the Suicide Squad, but with undead DC villains.
Yeah, I didn't read that one.
Led by the not dead Red Hood, but he has a whole bunch of zombies on his team.
Okay.
And it is okay. If you read Deathstroke Inc. and liked it, you'll like this.
Okay. I did not read Deathstroke Inc.
Okay. Deathstroke Inc. did not do well for us. But I think the concept
Which is weird, because when that came out, that's when I definitely thought, like, man, we underordered this. People are going to respond. But they did not. They did not care at all.
No. I think people will respond better to Task Force Z.
Okay.
I mean, it's Zombie Bane. There's some interesting... It's mainly Bat villains. There's Man-Bat and Bane and Mr. Bloom and the Arkham Knight.
Okay.
So it's definitely Bat-themed. And again, like, the Arkham Knight and Mr. Bloom are interesting choices.
Yeah, unusual choices.
But,
I mean, Arkham Knight's fairly recent. Mr. Bloom was before that. And we really hadn't seen them outside of a couple isolated stories.
Yeah. It's funny you should say isolated stories because Mr. Freeze is part of it.
What?
But he's not. I mean, he's somebody they fight.
Okay.
And then I think we talked about Newburn last week.
Maybe.
Yeah, probably. I think we did. But
it's real good.
It's coming out real soon. And we both loved it.
Yeah.
And especially when a book like Reckless comes out this week, it fits right up that alley.
Yeah, just really good self-contained
Chip Zdarsky and Jacob Phillips, ongoing.
Yeah.
Single issue stories. You just said that.
Yeah, well, single issue mysteries, I guess, is maybe the best way to describe it.
And
there is an overarching plot. Like, there are recurring characters. There are mysteries that will be solved later in the series. But, you know, there is a crime that's investigated and gets solved in an issue.
There's another Image thing we forgot to mention.
What's that?
They have put out their local comic shop day books.
Yes.
And
three books.
3 books. One of them is a Girl Scouts book.
Yep. One of them's a Walking Dead Deluxe variant.
With a foil cover.
Ooh.
But the other one caught me completely by surprise.
Yep.
A single issue Friday comic.
Yeah. Reprinting the first chapter of the graphic novel.
Yeah. That's such a weird...
It's cool they're doing
choice.
I like that. I'd rather sell that than
the
other two. I
think it's like anybody who buys a single issue Friday, we're going to be like, you have to buy the graphic novel.
Oh my God, yeah.
But then you're buying, what, 1/3? How, like,
1/5?
Is it, okay, 5?
I think it's 5 issues
I think
in the first
volume. Theme of this episode is us not knowing if things are 3 issues or 5
durations,
issues.
like, sometimes we'll get people saying,
the 12 issue ones, we got it.
Hey,
we know those down.
Sign me up for this unless it's an ongoing series, and it's like, I don't know what's a miniseries and what's an ongoing series for the most part.
Yeah,
Stuff just ends now. Who knows?
But yeah, pretty excited for that. I think that's a neat idea.
Yeah, it's a good mix of books. The local comic shop stuff this year is pretty random. It's those 3 from Image. It's a Venom #2 variant.
Yeah, a John Boy Myers Venom #2 variant from Marvel. Boom has a Magic the Gathering variant cover, which we're not going to care that too much about. A variant for the second print of House of Slaughter #1.
Yep.
There's multiple covers for the second print available.
Yep.
This is another one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, from the collector aspect, people will definitely want it.
Yeah, and then another variant for the Curious Case of Oswald's Body, or whatever that book is called.
Yeah, so we both read that one.
We did, yeah.
It's Boom. It's Chris Cantwell at Boom, who, by the way, is now doing an Angel series for them as well.
He is, yeah.
That seems random, but okay.
Good for him,
Sure.
I guess.
I like Mason Chris Cantwell.
Sure.
So The Difficult Case of Oswald's Body was something that I had never really paid much attention to what it was about, but I was just excited to read it because it was more like it's a more noir Cantwell book, but it's way more conspiracy based.
Sort of, yeah. I mean, it's a 60s era heist book, but the heist is tied to the Kennedy assassination, and it's tied to the fate of Lee Harvey Oswald, and I kind of don't get that aspect of it in the first issue. Like, it's present, but I genuinely do not understand what I'm supposed to be getting. But, like, the character-driven stuff with, like, putting together the crew, amazing.
Yeah, like we
So
talked
great.
about with Catwoman, Lonely City, but this was, like, you're watching a movie in your head. It's so great, and everybody is such a unique voice.
Yeah, like, the Oswald book is like if you read Catwoman, Lonely City, and you had never even heard of Batman before. Where it's like, there's character stuff in the middle that you get into, but then there's a lot of flashback stuff where you're like, I don't understand who these people are and what's going on. And the Oswald book is like that, where there's a segment at the beginning where I'm like, I don't get what I'm supposed to get out of this. But then it's like, oh, here's a bunch of new characters, and you get a little vignette with each of them, and it's like, these are all great.
Yeah.
They're all unique,
I
and they're
just
all
never
great.
realized who the Oswald was in Oswald's Body.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's neat. We forgot that we had read that. I didn't put that one on the
sure,
whiteboard
yeah.
by accident.
You're listening to Contest of Challengers, a podcast with detailed opinions on carpeting.
You had mentioned a different supply chain crunch.
Oh, yeah.
With
the
a
Bad
different
Idea
publisher.
One. The
Yeah.
Bad Idea one. Yeah, so Bad Idea had been sending us emails that they are also dealing with paper shortages and allocations from their suppliers. So things were getting delayed and pushed back. And that's what's going to happen a lot. Way more than other things. You're going to see projects getting pushed back or delayed by a week or two. Because the supply chain issues are multiple pressure points. So even if you manage to get the paper together, you might not be able to get them on a boat or get them on a truck. And you may not be able to get that boat or truck unloaded in time, and so on and so forth. So Bad Idea had already emailed us about some stuff getting pushed back a couple weeks, and we'd already seen stuff this month where it took 2 different weeks to get all 3 issues of the Bad Idea books out.
Yeah. They used to be the first Wednesday of the month.
Yeah.
Lately, they've been the first and second.
When we would get no more than approximately 2 comic books. So the situation this time is that part of their Final 5 initiative, where they'd announced their final 5 projects for both the year and the company. The 5th and final one was a series called Odin's Eye, and that was a 5-issue weekly series releasing in December. And
by Josh Dysart and don't remember.
Tomas Girello, maybe, I don't know, probably. But the gimmick for the Final 5 was that stores were able to solicit orders, I think without finding out what they were or something.
How did it work? I think they named them, but didn't tell us the creators or the stories
or the frequency.
So basically, we were given the option of ordering blind on every issue.
Yeah, basically
of every
the Final 5. How many copies do you want for each thing that comes out? And we picked a number that met our subscriber copies, because we put people down for all Bad Idea stuff, because the way Bad Idea stuff is solicited is so opaque and so difficult within our Comic Suite system to act on, that it's easier for us to just tell people, look, you're down for everything. And if something comes out that you don't want, we'll take you off the list for it. You won't get any more issues. So we had signed basically everybody up for every Final 5 project, which was very lucky that we did it that way, because what ended up happening is that after the Final 5, that deadline closed. And then you could, as a store, order additional copies as you felt appropriate.
Monthly, when the normal monthly orders were
always
due.
With the caveat that it's a Bad Idea book, so whatever you order for issue 1, you have to order that for every subsequent issue. So whatever for Odin's Eye 1...
extra you ordered for Odin's Eye 1.
Yeah.
So you have your Final 5 number.
So if you ordered...
So that's your minimum.
Yeah, if you ordered 50 copies of the Final 5, so 50 copies of every Final 5 of the book that comes out, you could, on FOC, or when the orders close for Odin's Eye number 1, you could say, okay, I want 30 more copies. That gets me 80 copies. Now you have to get a minimum of 80 copies for issues 2, 3, 4, and 5 of a weekly December series. So it turns out we were very smart to pre-subscribe everyone during the final 5 part, because Bad Idea announced that due to supply chain issues and paper shortages, all they'd be producing for Odin's Eye as a series was the final 5 numbers that came in. That book is essentially pre-sold out. Whatever you gave them for your final 5 numbers. So if you only had 10 people sign up for the final 5, and you order 10 copies, then later you're like, oh, I need 70 more, you're getting 10.
Yeah.
The final 5 people, that's all you're going to get.
That's all you're getting.
So lucky for us, like, we didn't just do, like, the people who turned in the sticker or whatever, the people who came in to get the sticker. We did everybody. And that's great, because that means that we're going to be able to fill our subscriber numbers. What that also means is that we will currently have 0 copies for the shelf of Odin's Eye, issues 1 through 5.
Also, if you have not signed up for Odin's Eye at this point, we will not sign you up for it.
Yeah,
we can't. We can't sign you up for it.
Yeah, currently there are no extra copies. Now, that said, people are allowed to, when they get a Bad Idea series, go, no thank you. And at that point, copies will go back to the shelf. So if you come in on the Wednesday of release for Odin's Eye, you may find copies on the shelf. That may happen. We can't guarantee it, and therefore we cannot subscribe people to it.
Yeah, nor are we taking a want list of, in case we get it back in stock.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. Assuming you take Bad Idea at their word, I would not. There is no Bad Idea in January to reprint this book. Like, I think they've already said there will not be first print editions of Odin's Eye.
Yeah, but they also said that it won't be coming out in December.
So they have said that stuff needs to be...
Yeah,
there will be delays on that.
There definitely will be a Bad Idea in January.
Okay.
I'm sure it changes all of their initial plans for...
whatever comes next.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, it sounds like Challengers will be carrying Bad Idea books in 2022.
Yeah, no matter, despite whatever we've said.
Despite what was going to be our New Year's resolution. Whoops.
Interesting.
So yeah, expect more of that. The end of 2021 is going to be incredibly rough as far as like release dates and allocations and projects getting canceled and things getting pushed back and stuff getting, rearranged. We're all going to have to figure it out.
In a pre-COVID world,
I don't remember that at all.
Challengers had a pretty good system for restocking things and it was weekly restocks of everything.
Yeah.
Graphic novels, supplies, you name it.
Yep.
What we did this week was something that we never wanted to do, but is now a necessity. We now have to buy so many things in as much bulk as possible that we have to have a storage unit to...
Off-site storage
to stock all of the extra things we're getting.
Yeah.
And so we can finally not have hundreds of comic boxes on top of red shelves.
Yep.
And it's
and
still
back rooms that are incredibly cluttered. Like people don't see it because we would not let people into our back rooms, but it's rough back there.
Yeah,
it's rough in the back rooms and the back hallways because we have to store more things because the ability to get stuff at the last minute, which is like the backbone of the American economy, is gone.
We were ordering comic supplies like, what we can sell in a week, maybe 2 weeks. Now it's like, give us what you have.
Yeah. It's the same way for graphic novels and stuff. Things that we would normally stock, a copy of because it's like, well, you're only going to sell a copy every month, maybe. So you keep one copy in stock. When you sell it, you order another one. You'll get it back in like 2 weeks at the most. Now it's like we have to carry 2 copies because it could be months before we get another one. And sometimes you carry 3 and 4 copies because maybe you'll never get any more than what you have. And there's even projects that I'm looking at where it's like, I feel like this is going to get allocated and we're going to have someone who wants it and we're not going to be able to get it when they want it. So maybe we do order a copy of the Once and Future limited edition slipcase.
Oh, you know what I just ordered today? For the first time ever, I used Zoop.
What is that?
Zoop is like...
It's a soup company?
I wish. I love soup.
Like a soup delivery company?
You lay down and they ladle it in your mouth. And it goes Zoop. Yeah, just like that. It's basically a new Kickstarter, but just for comic projects.
Okay. Oh, this is the one that we got somebody who came in and they were like, "Here, look at pages on my tablet for this comic series that some guys were doing, and it's on Zoop, and you can fund it on Zoop."
Okay.
And we went, "No thanks."
I believe you.
Okay.
Well, they announced an artist edition for John Paul Leon book.
Oh, okay. Which book?
His favorite book that he ever did.
Okay.
I forget the title of it.
Okay. Do you remember who published it originally?
Nope, not a Marvel or DC.
Okay.
Winterman?
Oh,
Is
was
that a
it
thing?
really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was his Image book.
Yeah, that.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool.
So they're doing an artist edition on Zoop.
Mm-hmm.
And they had 2 retailer levels, so we pledged to one of them.
Okay.
The price is like the retailer price break is not great.
No, it's always
But-
not great. And like the problem that we get a lot of requests, not specifically to us, but like bulk email requests from people who are doing Kickstarters for comics and wanting us to fund them. And we don't, because it's either like the price break isn't great, or more realistically, the number of copies that we end up having to get, 5 or 10, is way more than what we feel like we can sell. It's the thing where, like, man, if this was in like Diamond's catalog, yeah, I'd order 2 copies for the shelf. But instead it's like, you got to get 10. I'm not going to sell 10, or it's going to take me years to sell 10.
Yeah.
It's not a good investment for me.
So I went to back it just for myself, but they had 2 different retailer levels of different quantities.
Sure.
So which one would you have done?
The lower?
That's what I did.
Yep.
And take one of those away from me.
Right. That's why the number works out.
Because I assume more people who would want it would order it from Zoop.
Yeah, that's usually what we found out. I mean, either people, like the hardcore people who would buy it from Challengers, are either going to get it on Zoop or Kickstarter, whatever platform it's on. And the casual people, there will be, usually for a lot of Kickstarter comics projects, another way for us to get it. Like, we don't usually do, like, the Iron Circus stuff, because Iron Circus is available from other vendors.
Yeah.
So we can get it from Diamond, we can get it from Ingram. Like, we can get the amount of copies we need when we need them, rather than, like, pre-funding it. And because it's an Iron Circus thing. It's going to fund. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Their most recent one funded in, like, an hour. It's not the sort of project where we have to back it because they won't get across the finish line without us.
I do feel like we should maybe reach out to Spike and do something with them eventually, because they're local and we're local.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think we're at the point, and Iron Circus is at the point as a publisher, where it's smart for us to just get in the habit of, like, can we just wholesale from you directly?
Yeah. But I think that... whatever. Also, as far as art editions go, there was a Brian Boland Judge Dredd artist edition in the last previews.
Okay.
That I think no one saw.
Yeah.
So I mentioned it to one of our club members, who said, "Oh my God, yes, please." I'm like,
Great.
I'm going to get a second one for the shelf just in case.
Sure.
Because it's like his earliest work.
Sure.
And it's a lot of like Zimpatone and whiteout and stuff, so it could be really cool.
Very cool.
Lastly, I want to mention that we have just restocked every Rachel Bard book.
We did, yeah.
Everything she had, we got lucky with the timing, because I reached out and she's like, I just reprinted everything.
Great.
So we got restock of all of it, and we talk about her work a lot because we love it.
We do. And
She's so unique and inventive and original.
And it's the sort of thing that makes a great gift for the holidays. Like, they're very cool art objects. So even if you have someone in your life who isn't a huge comics fan and doesn't want to sit down with a giant graphic novel, like, any of her little art projects are great because they're unique. You can't really get them a lot of places. They're almost all like handcrafted in a sense. So yeah, it makes a great little additional, like, I got you this little book as well. And it's in a matchbook, you know?
Yeah.
Great. Or it
I
comes
keep
inside a
that one
seashell.
in a bowl of matchbooks I have.
That's great.
And Rachel Bard was on this podcast a couple years ago.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. So that is what we've been dealing with the past week.
Busy week.
Busy week.
I'm very much hoping next Thursday does not require a lot of on-site stuff at the store or, like, out-of-town trips.
So I will say that Molly Jane left a bunch of notes from stuff from yesterday, and I didn't understand a lot of it, so I'm just leaving it for you.
Okay.
Because you will work with her.
Yes. I'll delve into it on Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean,
I assume a lot of it was stuff about Dune.
Just Dune. Nothing but Dune.
All things about Dune.
Nothing but Dune.
It looks good on the HBO Max, by the way. I watched a little bit just to see if it played without the IMAX.
Such a nerd.
And it does. It looks real good.
It was quite the topic of conversation today.
I can imagine.
A lot of people have already seen it.
Yeah.
And then the people that did see it just on HBO Max, I kind of...
You asked them to be a little lower than the people who had seen it on IMAX or on the big screen. You made them crouch down a little bit.
Exactly. Just because Dennis Villanueva wants people to see it on IMAX. Otherwise, there won't be a second one.
We did our part.
I know.
We went to go see it on the IMAX.
We did our part.
We did. If there's a part 2, it's specifically because of Patrick and myself.
Cutting all this Dune stuff out.
Aw, boo.
Thanks for listening.
Keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. Like Challengers Comics on Facebook, follow @Challengers on Twitter, and help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.